Good evening. And at the outset, let me thank Dr. Deepak for giving me this opportunity. So my topic is perimetry misinterpretation. Actually, it is a very vast topic. And if you go systematically seeing one parameter by next another parameter, you may not make any mistake. But it is very difficult to do so in a busy clinic. So there are usually some misinterpretations. And I don't have any disclosure to make. The visual field defect, whenever we see any defect in the printout, then it may be due to real defect or it may be due to artifact. Artifact is also very common in case of perimetry because it is a machine oriented thing. And if the defect is real, that is means that it is due to any pathological change. Then that pathological change may be glaucomatous or non-glaucomatous, like in retina condition, like in any where any visual pathway, any defect is there, then that can come in the visual printout. So some of the common artifacts are that if there is pupillary constriction, if the pupillary constriction is there, then that can produce ring scotoma-like defect. But if we dilate the pupil, then this will go away. So main thing is that if the pupil is less than 2.5 millimeter, then we have to dilate it. And important thing is that we have to mention it in the perimetry. And so subsequent examination should be done with at least in that perimeter so that there will not be any variation in the sensitivity. Another condition is ptosis or dermatocalasis. All those things can produce defect which can mimic glaucoma, but that is obvious if you look at the face of the patient. And you can know that it has to be taped, and if you tape, the defect vanishes. And one of the common artifact is the rim artifact due to the rim of the trial lens. But peak is that we have to use the full aperture trial lens, and lens should be placed close to the eye without touching the eyelashes. Sometimes the patient, if the patient takes away his head during the perimetry, because the chair height is not adequate for the patient or something, then that may also produce the rim artifact, and lens should be centered also properly. But the rim artifact is very common if there is high hyperopic correction is used, and whenever two lenses are used instead of one lens. And trick, how will you know that there is rim artifact? Because it will produce the effect like this, and this one we can confuse with the arcuate defect. So the trick is that there is sharp depression in the peripheral point. You can notice here from the 25, 24 like that, it has already become 0 and even less than 0. So this should give us the clue that there is a rim artifact. It's not due to peripheral glaucomatous defect. And nowadays, in the COVID era, another defect we are getting, that is the mask artifact, because the patients are wearing the COVID mask, and if they are not getting proper sealed, then there is fogging of the trial frame. And as a result, particularly you can mark there is inferior nasal field defect is there due to the mask effect. Then another thing is that we have to correctly put the refraction of the patient. So this patient was myopic, and it was mentioned that he was using -4 diopter lens. But in the meantime, before the next test, he has undergone LASIK, and his refractive error has become 0. So he doesn't require any glass now. If we do the perimetry using the same -4, then there will be lots of difference. But when we correct it to the emmetropia like without any glass, then the MD will come back to the -1, and it is almost normal. So we have to not only correctly enter the refractive change, we have to also verify that it is the same refraction we are doing whenever the next test. Then another thing is that there is Cloverleaf pattern or reverse Cloverleaf pattern. This will come, this will be obvious from the grayscale alone. This is one of the very useful comment in the grayscale. So these 4 points are tested at the beginning of the test. So if the patient is attentive during these points, then these points will be showing some sensitivity, but after that the patient, due to fatigue or due to inattentiveness, is not responding. So peripheral points will be black. Sometimes the perimetry starts with the patient, stays with the patient when the test begins, and subsequently he moves away. By that time also the patient loses his attention and makes the error. So reverse is the reverse Cloverleaf. This happens when the patient does not know that test has started. So he fails to respond to these 4 points, and subsequently when he knows that the test has started, he starts responding very well, and the peripheral points are becoming, giving sensitivity. So another mistake we may repeat, we may make the pattern deviation and total deviation. If there is any mismatch, then total deviation normally should show more defect points, more depressed points than the pattern deviation, because the machine filters the general reduction of sensitivity and gives us the pattern deviation. But if the pattern deviation is showing so many depressed points and the total deviation is not showing much, then that means that patient is trigger happy. And if you see the full printout, then you can see there is lots of white scotoma, and there is fixation losses. False positive is much more, and the glaucoma hemiplegia is also showing that there is a abnormally high sensitivity. And another thing, important thing we have to know, that in a known glaucoma patient, if the pattern standard deviation started improving, then that is a ominous sign, because whenever the patient is normal, the PSD is small. Gradually, when the scotoma deepens, the PSD will become abnormal and more abnormal. But towards the end stage, again it will start decreasing, and that is not a good sign. That is a sign that patient is approaching towards the end stage of the glaucoma, because most of the points have become zero, and there is not much difference between the 2 points. That certain neuro-ophthalmic condition also can give us problem, and this hereditary optic neuropathies, which may produce field defect, can be confusing. And what differentiates them from normotensive glaucoma is the typical family history and early age of onset and reduced visual acuity, because glaucoma visual acuity is almost returned towards the very advanced stage, and there is color vision defect will be there, and the defect will typically be centrocecal defect. And the pallor of the neuroretinal rim is the important thing here, because in the glaucoma the neuroretinal rim is not pale, it is notched or something, but it is not pale. And the bitemporal field loss is usually due to chiasmal lesion. This will be obvious if we set aside the two fields side by side and they are respecting the vertical midline. So we can know that it is due to the compression by the pituitary tumor. So any defect which respects the vertical midline should give us the hint that it is a neurological defect. And this patient, you can see, if you only see the right eye, you can see and you can confuse that it can be due to the superior arcuate defect. But if you mark, then it is respecting the vertical midline. If you see the left eye also, then you can see the left eye is also showing gross central visual field defect. So this is an example of a ipsilateral central scotoma and the contralateral quadrantanopia defect. So by joining the two, we can think that it is a junctional scotoma. It indicates that there is compressive lesion, which we may miss if we see only on the one eye. Then another of these patients also similarly, we can confuse this with the superior arcuate scotoma, because it is in the arcuate region and it is there is a scotoma. But if you mark minutely, then you can see that it is falling short at the vertical midline, that is respecting the vertical midline. So if we see the second eye also, but the trick was that the patient was pseudo exfoliation. So by pseudo exfoliation and perimetry defect, we can already jump to the diagnosis that okay, it is the field defect due to glaucoma. But if we see the other eye is also similarly showing the defect, and left eye also is superior temporal quadrantanopia. So if we see both the defect side by side, then we can know it is an homonymous defect. And the left homonymous superior quadrantanopia, it is suggestive of suprachiasmal lesion. This we can know only if we see both the fields together and not jump to the conclusion by seeing only one eye and the pseudo exfoliation. And from this we have to know that we have to see both the fields together to recognize a pattern. And important thing is here that we have to keep the printout of the right eye to the right side and left eye to the left side, unlike the disc changes or something in which we keep the right eye to the left. And this is also suspicious because there is gross asymmetry of the field changes in spite of the normal optic, similar optic disc changes. So if there is any discrepancy, then any gross asymmetry between the fields and the discrepancy between the two things, then we should suspect that something is playing the background. So field changes should always correlate with the disc appearance. Otherwise, we have to order for a neurological investigation. And anterior ischemic optic neuropathy may closely mimic the glaucomatous defect, but it is producing altitudinal defect, and it can be thought of as the arcuate defect. But if we see the fundus picture, in the fundus picture will look that the disc is edematous, and this will clinch the diagnosis. But once the disc edema subsides, it's really very difficult to diagnose the ischemic optic neuropathy from the glaucomatous patient, and history will help here. We can, ischemic optic neuropathy will be sudden loss of vision, painless loss of vision. In case of glaucoma, it is not so, it is a gradual process. So this we have to also think and keep in mind that it may be due to AION. Then another thing is that suppose we know some patient, he is visiting us regularly and suddenly he discrepancy that he is a sudden diminution of vision in the one of the eyes. So that means that there is something else is happening other than glaucoma or alongside the glaucoma, because glaucoma will not make the patient immune to other diseases. In this case, the AION has developed in the non-glaucoma patient. So any change in the course of the disease it is suspicious. Here the patient is suddenly developing some field defect, and that is due to the change in the pathology. So we have to suspect the neurological condition when the scotoma that obeys the vertical midline, because glaucoma always obeys the horizontal midline due to the peculiar arrangement of the retinal nerve fibers. A field defect which appears suddenly is unlikely glaucoma, and purely central scotoma with preservation of the peripheral field also give a suspicion that neurological condition may be there. And rapid deterioration of visual field in spite of good IOP control should also give us the red warning. And field loss is not correlating with the degree of cupping, and field deficit not consistent with the glaucomatous pattern also should give us suspicion. And if there is gross asymmetry between the field, in spite of the similar optic disc change also give us the clue that it may be some neurological condition. And we should not also forget about the retina, because retinal condition, chorioretinal scars also can produce field defects which will mimic glaucoma. In this type of patients, here there are chorioretinal scars which are iatrogenic and produced by the PRP, and here the chorioretinal scars are due to inflammatory, due to the sarcoidosis or any toxoplasmosis or any condition, that this will produce the field defect like glaucoma. So never give the diagnosis by just looking at the perimetry. You may be wrong. You have to look at the clinical picture also. And certain vessel occlusive diseases like BRVO or BRAO also can produce field defects which are exactly like glaucoma. But once you dilate the pupil and see the condition, also the PRP, also the retinitis pigmentosa, and the condition becomes very clear. So dilated fundus examination is very much essential, and without doing that, by seeing only the perimetry, we should not give the report. Otherwise, we will be proven wrong. So do not overlook the central visual field in the early glaucoma, because traditionally it was thought that the central visual field was affected towards the end of the glaucoma, and glaucoma only affects the peripheral visual field at the beginning of the disease. The glaucomatous damage to the macula can occur early in the glaucoma stages. Some may present with the central visual field defect early in the glaucoma. But paracentral scotoma can be overlooked if we do only the 24-2 or 30-2, because the central 10 degree is very less represented by this 24-2. Only 12 points are there in the central 10 degree field. So, but 10-2 field has 68 points in that area, and you can mark here it is very closely spaced and only 2 degree point density is there. So we can detect the glaucomatous defect early. So if there is a single defect in the centralmost 4 points, we have to add a 10-2 so that we will not miss the early paracentral scotoma. And SITA in the JAIS machine, the SITA Faster program has has come out with the 24-2C, and the test has got 10 additional test points within the central 10 degree fixation. And these points are located, these are not symmetric, they are located in the area which are usually affected in the glaucoma. And there is Madam Tutul will tell us more detailing about this thing, because he has extensively researched in this particular segment, and there is substantial agreement for identifying the central visual field defect between the 24-2. So we should not miss the paracentral scotoma. Concession for learning effect, because it is very much a very tedious process and it is very much subjective. So we have to give concession for learning effect, and some patients are having a very long learning defect, and decisions should never be taken based on a single field. The field has to be reliable and reproducible. Otherwise, it is cannot be taken into consideration. And glaucomatous field usually follows a pattern due to the typical arrangement, either arcuate or paracentral or nasal defect. Anywhere any defect is not glaucomatous, and interpretation should always follow the clinical diagnosis. Isolating the perimetry, we will not give the diagnosis properly. So avoid missed and misdiagnosis in glaucoma by carefully monitoring. Thank you.